Today on Adversity to Strength, I'm joined by Emma Lyons, a trauma-informed healer and founder of the Trauma Matrix. Emma's mission is to help women break free from the shame voice, what she calls the inner narcissist, that sabotages success, relationships, and visibility. After originally studying law and international human rights, Emma turned away from a career path that looked good on paper but left her feeling empty. She then spent over a decade immersed in the healing world, exploring therapy, yoga, mindset work, and energy practices. But it wasn't until she uncovered how she had internalized a narcissistic system of control that she was able to dismantle the shame loops keeping her stuck. Today, Emma works with high functioning, heart led women to regain clarity, power, and nervous system freedom. Her approach blends somatic work, trauma decoding, intuitive energy healing, guiding women out of guilt, people pleasing, perfectionism, South Erasure, and back to breaks, fresh insight to the hidden voice that holds so many people back. This is an episode you won't want to miss. Emma, thanks ever so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me, Lee. Great to be here.
Thank you. Take us to the beginning of where your journey started with all of this.
Well, I suppose, from a young age, from a child, I remember being really depressed, and think it was normal. I even had like suicidal ideation, and I remember being really sad and feeling sorry for myself. And I was constantly trying to get better. I was constantly trying to prove to myself that I was good enough, constantly trying to get the best grade so that I could prove that I was good enough because I really had this internalized malignant thing that said you're not enough and you'll never be enough until you get that thing. So that was me. I had suicidal ideation quite regularly as a child, and I actually thought that was normal. I thought everyone had that. And I went to university. I was very unhappy in school, and you thought university would be different, but it was kind of more of the same. And then when I finished that, I went on to study human rights law and law. And after I finished studying the law, I realized, holy crap, this is not for me at all. It's not the right path. And I kind of had a quarter life crisis at that point because I just like, who am I? What am I doing here? What's my purpose? And feeling completely lost. And this is where I really started to look for healing, like look for all kinds of therapy, all kinds of things, a way to feel better within myself. And I was doing, I learned how to do certain techniques, and I noticed that everyone else was getting great results, and people that I'd work with would be like, wow, I feel so different. And I was like, where's my breakthrough? I'm doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing, and nothing was really working. And when I tried to make out of business out of it, because I found this thing that I was really good at, um, I kept on running into walls around being visible, sabotaging myself. And I was really just beating myself up big time. And it wasn't really until I discovered the underlying pattern, the reason why I was like this. And that was my mom is a covert narcissist, and that I had been the scapegoat within that system. That was really when healing started to started to kick into place. Really, it was before then. I had just been doing feng shui in the living room when the house was on fire, really. So nothing was really working long term. It might feel a little bit lighter for a day or two, and then I just feel go back to my old ways. So this was the real realization. And then I was able to start disconstructing all the shame that I had internalized, because I identified that shame was really a big problem that I had. And this internalized shame voice and made myself wrong, spent my whole life shrinking. While I was doing the things to show up and be big, if you have this
Yeah.
shame energy, it's like you've got this push-pull thing. You're just terrified of being seen, really. And that shut down my ability to make money, to show up, to be successful. It just kept me small for all my life. So it wasn't until I started dismantling that system and also creating distance from my family of origin and kind of going no contact really, was able to start reclaiming and figuring out who I was without that. Because, you know, when you're, even if you're not in the same country as your family of origin, if you're still within the family Wi-Fi, so to speak, you're still affected by it. So I really had to
Yeah.
create that distance to really start reclaiming, figuring out who I was, first of all, and really reclaiming my power because I had totally given it away as a child.
When did you realize your mum was a covert narcissist?
Well, you know, it was kind of was less than a year ago, and I had been living at home for. I was living in London for years, and you know, abandonment stuff came up for me there. So I thought I need to go home, and you know, I'll have a safe space, you know, to figure things out and work on things. And home, just I got really depressed. Then when I was home, I'd been depressed my whole life, really, kind of mild to moderate depression. And at home, I told my parents that. And what was interesting now when I look back at it is the lack of any kind of curiosity as to why. They were just like, oh,
Yeah.
get on the pills, you know, no question as to
Yeah.
why, no real ability to empathize or, you know, oh, cheer up, you know, that'd be the best that my mom could do. Because really, you know, those deep feelings make narcissistic people feel very uncomfortable. And I remember as a child, you know, and it was a process really realizing that she was narcissistic. But it happened because I met someone else who I identified as a covert narcissist, and I realized that she was kind of an echo of my mother. And then one day, you know, it all kind of clicked into place into my consciousness, and I realized that, you know, she ticked all the boxes of a narcissist, of a, you know, vulnerable, covert narcissist. And
Yeah.
all this time, I thought I was the problem. But, you know, when I got my period
Yeah.
as a young girl, I didn't feel like I could tell anyone, you know. After that, I was like, why did I do that? Why did I not tell anyone? But now I realized like it just wasn't safe. I had no one to talk to. I was not close to anyone in my family. My sisters, I was never really close to them, and my dad is like totally emotionally mature, and he's kind of the enabling person within the family. So, you know, and but when I started to see that I had been scapegoated, I tick every single box of that, and you know, things just started to make sense. And my body actually well, I remember when I started to realize my body just kind of, I got like diarrhea all of a sudden for no, it was obviously an emotional reason because there was nothing else happening in my life at the time. And life really had to
Yeah.
stop me in my tracks to get me to go through all that process. I broke my leg and, you know, pretty badly. I was like in a wheelchair and crutches for like 6 months. So that's what it took for me to start really becoming aware of how dysfunctional and toxic my family is. Because it, on the outside it looks fine, you know, there's not that much shouting, there's just no emotional resonance, there's no real connection. Everything, when my parents contact me, even still, it's all just about wanting to know where I am, what I'm doing. It's all about kind of checking in those boxes. There's no genuine concern about how I am, even now that I've, you know, created that distance and taken a step back. And they know that even after
Controlling.
I said I need some time, there's like zero concern about how I am. And that's been the pattern my whole life because my feelings have always been too much for them. And my mom, I remember like when I was upset as a child, being told that I was overly sensitive or self-absorbed, you know. So I was shamed for having feelings, and this is why I didn't wasn't safe to talk about my feelings with anyone, and I just turned all that shame in on myself.
Did you confront your mum, your dad, about what you discovered that they were like, or did you not? Did you just realize the relationship you actually had with them?
When I was at home, I thought that the problem was, you know, emotional neglect at that point. And I did try to bring that up to them, but they were like, oh, we just did the best we could. So there was no real ability to recognize that.
Accountability.
So when I realized that it was much more than that, that it was actually abusive, I realized there was 0 point. There's no point in confronting a narcissistic person. They're going to gaslight you. They're going to shame you. It's just there's no point in doing that. So I realized that I just kind of cut my ties because and that's the interesting thing. My nervous system knew what was going on before I did because I remember getting messages like vigilate, my mom asking me where I was and wanting to check, and my nervous system was reacting, and I was like, "What's going on here? Why is this?"
Yeah.
And before I clocked it, so before I clocked it mentally, what was going on, your body holds this, and
Yeah.
your body is actually physically shrinking. It's all stored in your cells, so it affects absolutely every area of your life, like.
Yeah. Yeah. The body keeps the score, especially trauma.
Yeah, brilliant book.
Yeah, I've got the audio and I've got the book itself as well, because it's so good and it's so important. And the body really does talk to us there. So when you get a message from your mum, your body's putting you into fight or flight. There's a reason for it.
Yeah.
You never need to doubt yourself.
Yeah, but it's really interesting when you talk to people and have friends, I mean, on the 12 steps, and spiritual people, they they kind of gaslight you. They tell you, oh, just forgive and forget. It's your mom, just get over it. You're being too sensitive, you're being too much. Because I mean, and I know this couldn't go across the board. I mean, in my case, it was emotional abuse. So it wasn't physical or anything like that. But emotional abuse is abuse. It's invisible abuse, but it's still
Yeah.
abuse. And all
Yeah.
my life, I'd been wondering, why do I have all the beliefs of someone who's been sexually abused? Was I sexually abused? Why? I don't have any recollection of it. Like all my life, I've been trying to figure out what's wrong with me, why I have so much self-loathing and so many beliefs that parallel people who've been sexually abused. So just to point out here, like that people who've been emotionally abused, we carry so many of the same kind of beliefs and the
Yeah.
same toxic shame of people who've been sexually and physically abused. That emotional element is arguably even
Yeah.
more life-changing because it affects how you develop moving forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. Knowing from that, from my own experiences, especially with the mental abuse there as well, and then there's the denial of that, and the thing is, it's not even at the time. Even at the time, it's awful, but it's as an adult, you're carrying all that pain with you caused by other people. And often you don't know the reason why, and you're still trying to figure it out, and you think that you're the problem. So it takes a long time until you actually can recognize that you're not the problem, it's actually other people. And for me, there's no, other people will disagree, but for me, there's no divine right that because somebody is your mother or father that they get a pass. They can treat you terribly, make you feel awful, give you lots of shame, and then it's okay for them to just carry on as normal because they're your parents. In fact, they're more of a disgrace than anybody else because they're the people that should be nurturing you, keeping you safe, so you don't get that kind of physical or mental abuse.
Yeah, I totally agree. But there's, especially with mothers, mothers are both parents, but particularly mothers, they're kind of like the golden cow. You cannot say anything
Yeah,
against the
yeah,
mother. The mother is, oh, and people are like, oh, but they're getting old now. What are you going to do? You're going to regret it when they die and all this stuff. But at the moment, for once in my life, I'm putting myself first. All my life it's been about, and I've been
yeah,
taking the shame. I've been like the landfill for my dysfunctional family. And I just made a decision for me. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to play that role
no,
because I have a lot of potential and there's so many things that I want to do. And if I'm carrying all that, I'll never get to all that stuff. And I feel
no,
like the message that I carry is very important now for the world to hear. So it goes beyond just me personally. This is about kind of changing the way trauma and shame is regarded. Like we talked about this a little bit before the podcast, but I really believe that the conventional wisdom around shame is completely messed up, you know? We're told, even very clever people like John Bradshaw and Brene Brown, they talk about how shame can be healthy somehow. And I totally disagree with that. I've been examining shame, you know, in the writing and the work that I do, and shame is always a mechanism of control. But in our toxic culture, we're taught that you need a little bit of shame in order to be a good person. And that if you do something bad, as long as you feel shame, that's okay. You know, I actually was speaking to someone who said that the other day, that his therapist told him that, you know, that, oh, it's good, it's normal that you feel shame. You know, I totally disagree. Shame is an imposed emotion. It's not a normal emotion like fear or anger. There's no positive side to it. All
No,
other
I
emotions,
agree.
there's something good about it, but you know, there's like fear tells you there's danger, you know, but shame has nothing good about it. But
No.
we're gaslit and told
Yeah.
that somehow shame is good for you and can be healthy. And I just find that so reprehensible that people are being told that, even
I,
by therapists, people who are trying to help people are claiming to help and support people. They're teaching people how to live inside the cage rather than to open the fucking door and step outside.
yeah, and you're right. It is a cage. Yeah, I grew out of a lifetime of shame caused
Mm,
by my piece of shit parents. And there's nothing good about that. You're a kid. You got this shame. You're blaming yourself for the things that happened to you. So you got this guilt and shame. There's nothing positive about that. Who wants to live in that sort of shame? And I work
no.
really hard, whether it's with myself and my own therapist or whether it's with my clients, to get them past that shame and explain to them that they're not the problem and this shame's been inflicted on them. And yeah, I agree with you 100%. There is not one good thing about shame. It's an awful feeling to have. And it's usually
Yeah.
caused by other people a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's not a digestible emotion. This is the
No.
thing. You can't digest it or process it. You either project it at someone else, and this is what scapegoats do with the unhealthy form. With scapegoats, we're carrying so much unbearable shame. So what do? We find someone else to project the shame at and carry on the trauma cycle.
Yeah.
And otherwise, we start telling the truth and step outside of the cage. But you know, we're taught that shame is good for you, and even, you know, and it affects every person, particularly in our culture. But it's a narcissistic mechanism of control. And it's interesting when in the West they talk about shame, it's really the focus is on this individualized shame, like I am bad, I am defective. And what I've realized is that this idea comes from, it's not universal. Western in therapy, they talk about it as being the universal idea of shame, but it's not. If you look in the East, the Orient, they have a different kind of shade of shame. And this is kind of the honor shame. If you step outside what's considered acceptable in the family, then you're shamed for that. But you're shamed for your action. You're not shamed for who you are. This individualized, I am bad, I am defective, this comes from religion. This is where it really started. It comes from Catholicism and, you know, organized religion. That really spread that idea of original sin. Basically, you're a sinner and you have to forgive. Like, think about that for a second. That's a double bind that you can never get out of. And that's the foundation of our culture. You know, the our all our culture is founded on that concept. So it seeps up, and we're told that, you know, and obviously Jesus didn't teach shame. Shame came later, and it's always about control. You know, even anyone using shame, it's always about the person who's shaming. It's always about centering their feelings. It's not about, you know, helping anyone. But we're not taught that. We're taught that, you know, shame is good for you. You have to have a little bit of shame. Even it's linguistically enforced. Like, look at our language. You have no shame, Lee. There's something wrong with you because you have no shame.
Yeah. Exactly. So you're made to feel bad because you don't have shame. And I've had that said to me. Do you know what? You saying that, it reminds me the amount of times that you've got no shame. And I remember thinking that as probably as a kid where I'm like, yeah, but why should I? why should I? You know, I don't understand why I should have shame for whatever whatever it was. It wouldn't even be a big deal. It's something. How do I even get shame for that feeling? But to be like pointed out to go, you've got no shame. That I should be feeling bad about myself when, especially when I've not done anything wrong. I mean, most people know if they do something right, if they do something wrong, and we can all have shame when we've done something wrong. Yeah, do you know what? I feel terrible shame for doing this or whatever it might be. But a lot of the time with the shame, it's inflicted by other people, and then you're actually getting told that you should still have that shame, or you do something, you should have shame, and it's almost like it's forced upon you. And if you don't have
Yeah.
that shame or that guilt or whatever, then it's a bad thing. But shame's an
Yeah,
awful, awful
absolutely.
feeling.
Shame is a tool of empire to control people. And it's
Yeah,
it's like the air that we breathe. Shame is everywhere. And shaming is the way that we control ourselves and control each other. And interestingly, when you call people, also there's shameless and shameful, you know. So you have to
yeah,
have just the right amount of shame in order to be a good boy and a good girl, you know,
yeah,
not too little. And when we call someone shameless, 99 times out of 10, they're not free of shame. This is the only word in the English language that ends in, less, that doesn't actually mean what it says. It's people
yeah.
who are shameless are acting out of repressed shame 9 times out of 10. Maybe 1 time out of 10, there's someone being very authentic and really, and it triggers me. So I say, oh, you're so shameless because I'm triggered. But 99 times out of 100, it's because they're actually acting out of repressed shame. And people who are drunk and take all their clothes off, that's true for them. You know, the reason why we get addicted to things is because, our alcohol, I come from Ireland, so I know about this personally. When we drink or take drugs, we put pause on that shame and that toxic shame and that we've been living with all our life, that we've been, we've been taught is normal, that we've been breathing in our whole life. And like you said, shame, it's never ever useful. It's even if you do something wrong, yeah, shame is not useful, but we're taught that you should feel shame when you do something so-called bad. And something, if you feel shame and you do something bad, then it makes it okay. You
But
know, oh, I did something terrible, but I feel shame. Oh, well, then that's a good sign. It shows that you have a conscience. But you don't need shame for that. You don't need shame.
no,
Arguably, you need
you,
guilt. But guilt, when
yeah,
when people talk about guilt, it usually comes with a large portion of shame as well. So,
yeah.
that's why they get
They come
conflated.
together.
They
Yeah.
get conflated, but they're very different.
We're listening to what you were saying. My brain's like, right, when's there a time you would use shame for yourself to justify, yeah, I need to feel the shame? Because if I've done something bad and it's
Hmm.
my fault and it's cost somebody something, whatever that may be, and I'm like being hopefully an honest, decent person, I'm going to feel guilty. I've inflicted something on someone, and also I'm going to have remorse. Yeah,
Yes, you don't
you're
need
going to have.
shame.
Yeah.
You don't need
So
shame.
you're probably feeling shame, but do I actually need that? Why do I
No, you
need that?
don't.
No.
You don't.
And for me, I don't know with yourself. I mean, if you find that the shame is what other people want to put on you to make you feel bad, they tell you need to
Exactly.
feel the shame, like
This
what you were
this is
saying.
it. This is it. We're culturally told that you need to feel bad. You need to feel
Yeah.
bad about who you are in order to be a better person. And that's
Yeah.
not true, because actually shame, it shuts down our ability to empathize. So this is why it's so wrong when people like Brene
It's
Brown says that if you don't have shame, then you're a psychopath. If you don't experience any
it's
shame, then you're a psychopath, because shame actually shuts down our ability to empathize. We need
yeah.
empathy for that. We don't, in a fully evolved society, we wouldn't even need guilt, but we definitely don't need shame. Shame is self-erasure. It's not even that belief that I'm bad. It's that feeling. It's a cocktail of emotions, of fear, self-loathing, anger. It's disgust towards the self. It's all of those things. And this feeling that I'm bad or I'm wrong, it's all downstream from that emotion. So even saying I'm bad is a very small part of what shame really is. Because shame, it's not a normal emotion. It's an imposition from culture, and it's always about control. And once you recognize that, you can start evicting it and taking back your power. This change is not going to happen from the top down. It's going to happen each person individually. breaking free from the shame that we've internalized, that shame voice that I call the inner narcissist. And once you do that, you become unshameable. The more you
Yeah.
detox yourself of this shame voice, this inner narcissist. And by the way, it ticks all the boxes of a narcissist, except the call is coming from inside the house.
Yeah.
And when someone tries to shame you, like I was on a podcast a few weeks ago, and she was telling me about her aunt. And as a child, she was a little bit pudgy, and she went out, was eating ice cream with her friend. And this man, this grown man, comes up to her and says, "You shouldn't eat that ice cream, you'll get fat." And just think about how shamed those girls could feel. They laughed in his face, Lee. They laughed at his face. They didn't take it in because shame, in order to feel the shame when someone comes and shames you, you need to have the receptor. You need that inner narcissist
Yeah.
to say, "Yeah, I am fat. Oh, I do have a big nose. Oh, I'm such a fool." Otherwise, you'll just laugh at them and think they're crazy. And this is why it's so critical to disentangle ourselves from this parasite that is the inner narcissist, because then we become shameless. This is why my program is called Reclaim Your Shameless, because we do not need shame and we want to be free of shame because that is the only real freedom. Shame is external control that we've internalized. And once we reclaim our shameless, we become shame free. Nobody can shame us. We can recognize when we've done something wrong. I apologize. I accept that I've done some, but we don't need to feel bad about ourselves. We don't need to shrink in order to
No.
feel, have humility. We do not need shame for that. And this is the lie that we're gaslit with everywhere in our culture, even from professionals.
It reminds me of like when I've seen religious debates versus atheist debates. So I'm an atheist, and so I kind of know my stuff about religion there. And one of the common ones is that you have to be religious to be a good person. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, no, you don't. Each to their own, and you follow whatever you want to, but you don't need to be religious in order to be a good person. It's like, well, I can just be a decent person and then that's it. It's kind of a worry that if you feel the only reason you're a good person is because you follow a religion there as well. And it's like, it's the same sort of almost mentality with like the whole shame thing. You should feel shame. I'm going to inflict shame on you because you need to have this. You need to have this. And then you can feel the narcissism coming out of that person to inflict something on them because they think that that's what that person should be having, that you should feel in that way. And again, there's your control and behavior.
Yeah. Yeah, but we can return that to sender. In order for us to feel shame, we need to receive that. And like those girls in that ice cream story, you couldn't just eat your ice cream and not eat the shame. You can just return that. That's their projection. And once you start recognizing that, you really take back your power because
Yeah.
you become unshameable. The more you exercise this demon,
Yeah.
this parasite, the more unshameable you become. People can try to insult you and shame you, and it'll be just like they're saying, "Oh, Lee, you're a Coca-Cola." It'll just be like, "Oh my God, who's
Yeah.
that crazy person?"
Yeah. I think the thing is that once you know, again, it reminds me of whether it's myself in therapy or with clients, and they learn the tools and the things that you need to be able to defend yourself and deal with people's attacks on you or whatever. People that often don't know, they will accept the shame and they will feel guilty that they don't feel the shame because somebody's telling them they should feel shame about it and they don't know how to react on it. So they're like, well, let me look for this shame then because I need to do it because you've pointed out to me and I don't know how to deal with it. Where somebody like tries to speak to somebody like yourself, somebody of myself, we'll be like, stick it up your ass. We're not
Yeah,
going to take
yeah,
that from you because we
yeah,
know you're predictable. We know what to expect. We know what you're going to say. We're not going to do it. And we also know how to deal with it. And we don't need to feel that way because you're trying to project your own issues onto us. But other people don't know how to do that. And I think just listen to what you're saying. For you, for me, you have one conversation with somebody that might be oblivious to what shame is, it start making sense to them really quickly and a lot of pieces will start fitting into place and suddenly they're like, right, great, I understand this now, can you help guide me to get out of this? What are the strategies? Literally in that
yeah,
one conversation. It's like I give I say therapy is like a magic trick, and I'll give the analogy when you see like Penn and Teller in Vegas doing an amazing magic trick, and the people going, "Oh my God, how have they done that? I've got no idea. That's amazing. I'd never figure it out." And then they show you how they do it, and they go, "Is that it?" It's kind of like that as well for me. It's very straightforward once you know what to look for.
Yeah, and the thing with shame or this narcissist, when it tries to shame you, you it recognize. I mean, I have an acronym that's helpful for people that I use with my clients. It's called BREAK, because this shame voice, this narcissist, it's like got us all under a trance. We're under a collective trance. So B, you've got to break the trance. Recognize that it's not your voice, that it's a spell, that it's like you're under a trance there. So when you start feeling the shame, and your body is just kind of shrinking up, and then you start thinking, oh my God, I'm such a terrible person. Recognize that it's a trance, and that automatically disrupts the loop. Then you go on to R, which is refuse to engage. You don't explain or to argue with it. You drop the
Yeah.
rope, just like with the narcissist outside, like Dr. Ramani says, deep, don't defend, don't engage, don't explain, don't personalize. Just say, not today, bitch. Not today, Satan. It ain't happening. Then you want you to expose the lie. Recognize that it's control. What's it saying? You've got a big nose, that you're not good enough. This is control. This is not, it's not trying to help you. This is the huge thing I have a problem with. We're told that the inner critic is trying to keep you safe. It's a fucking lie. It's absolute bullshit. It's not trying to keep you safe. It's trying to control you. It's trying to keep
Yeah.
itself in control. And that everybody says that, therapists say that, healers say that, oh, it's trying to look after you, it's trying to keep you safe. No, it does not care about you. It's trying to destroy you, just like the narcissist, okay? So just recognize that it's control. Then you want to anchor it in your truth, come back into your body, because when shame attacks you, I don't know if anyone who's had a shame attack, I certainly have had more than one. It hijacks your body like nothing else. It like takes you over, it makes you shrink. So you've got to come back to your body, feel your breath, plant your feet, say your name, the year, do that nervous system recalibration. Tell your body that you're safe, that you're sovereign, that you're here. And then, finally, you can kick it out, like shake it out, physically shake it out. This is something that we don't do enough as humans. We try to keep it all in the head. But, it's your body, your nervous system is your whole body. So you want to shake it out, stomp it out, recognize that it's not yours. And you can actually evict this thing. Goodbye, shame. Goodbye, performance.
Yeah.
Goodbye, parasite. You are not mine. And that really is the power. That really is the power move when shame strikes. And it does work, I'm telling you, because I lived with shame my whole life. And this is what's working, or has worked, to really shut that voice down and start taking back my power and refuse to let that thing shame me. Because the more you perform for that, the more you try to argue with it, the more you try to
Yeah.
defend yourself, you give it narcissistic supply. It's like a light bulb. It's like a parasite. It's nothing without you.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, it ticks every single box of the narcissist. And that's why inner narcissist is such a perfect term. It's not an inner critic. It's not trying to, the saboteur is not trying to look after you. It's actually trying to destroy you, you know. Without
Yeah.
without this inner narcissist, nobody would commit suicidally. Think about it for a second. In order to commit suicide, you need that voice. And I've had this voice that says, you might as well be dead. You might as well not be here. You're a useless piece of shit. You need that voice, no matter what's going on in your life. You need that thing inside you to be telling you that, for you to take that action. So
Yeah.
really, really shutting this thing off is a power move for everyone, because it can become super malignant. It can be super covert, and it can
Yeah.
be super malignant, depending on how much you've let it run and how much you've performed and how much narcissistic supply you've given the thing. But
Yeah.
it affects everyone. It's just the degree to which, particularly in Western society, everyone is infected with this thing. It's just a question of how much people are aware of it. That goes for men, that goes for women.
I, do
If
you
you,
know
if you look
what?
at the hustle culture is built
Yeah.
on shaming, and this is a
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
masculine
Oh,
thing.
yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
It is. Yeah. Because even when you see like adverts making you feel that you're not good enough, if you buy this product, then you're going to be this. And if you do, you need to buy this car, you need to, all these material things, living this life. If you do this or do that, obviously you're not good enough. And you need to do this to earn more money. And if you don't, what do people do? They feel shame.
Yeah.
So it's almost like an indoctrination in the
Absolutely.
culture.
It's the Kool-Aid that we're all on. You know, this is and I've written about this on my Substack. Like this is a narcissistic pattern where we live in a narcissistic world. I mean, look what's happening now. We have a genocide happening, former scapegoats, then they became the golden child of the United States, now committing their own genocide. This is that fractal family pattern. It happens everywhere. It fractals out into bigger spaces, into corporations. You see people being scapegoated, enabling. So this we internalize it. It's everywhere. It's fractals in our culture, and it's really damaging. It's really damaging, but it's everywhere. It's in the air that we breathe. So our only chance is to really cut this thing at the root for ourselves so we can model that for other people.
I think the biggest thing is for me, I'd love to know the statistics. You might know it, I don't, but I bet there is a really high percentage of people that are unaware of shame. They just think it's another, a lot of people will think, and I did for years, and I didn't even know that I had shame. It's only because my therapist pointed out to me. And I remember when she explained, because I couldn't understand what the feeling was that I always used to feel or whatever. And she explained it to me in shame. And then she explained where the shame come from. And I just felt anger, absolute anger, because it was caused by other people like my parents. Um, but for me, when it comes to like the feeling of like shame, I think that there is very few people out there that's not had therapy, or spoke to like someone like yourself, that are even aware of shame is something that's almost like not optional, but something that is inflicted on us. We assume that it's just part of us as a normal feeling.
Yeah, well, this is the conventional wisdom, Lee. That's what we're told. We're told that you need shame in order to be a good person, you know.
Yeah,
Even people like John Bradshaw, who was so right. He got so close to everything. His book was so brilliant. But then he brings up this idea of healthy shame. And,
yeah,
Brene Brown, like I mentioned before, she actually says in her TED talk that if you need to experience some shame or you'll be a psychopath. So the conventional wisdom is out there and it says you need shame in order to be a good person. And
yeah.
it's complete
No,
bullshit. It's complete
I
gaslighting. It's
yeah, yeah,
complete gaslight. It's disgusting. But people are talking from inside the cage. And
yeah,
it's also very lucrative because when people are operating out of shame, they're always going to need help because they're
yeah,
never going to be able to. You don't. You have people just putting pearls on the cage, rather than opening the fucking door and stepping outside. I mean, it's so frustrating to see.
yeah. And so they'll be told that you're always going to be working on it,
Yeah,
always working on it. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I think it's really good what you're doing. I think it's great what you're doing because I generally think that so many people are unaware of it, of that feeling. And we spoke before the start, and we were literally aligned 100% on it. And everything you're telling me, I'm like, yeah, without a doubt, absolutely. And it all makes, but and it is like the old magic trick analogy because it's so obvious. Once you start talking about it, it's really obvious what you're saying. It's like, well, oh God, it's like you've revealed all. That is so obvious. That really stands out.
It is, but nobody's made the connection and about how it fractals out and how pervasive it is. Nobody's made that connection either. And that's probably by design. This is shame is very useful when you want to control people. You
Yeah,
want people to be
yeah,
shamed because they're people who carry a lot of shame are very controllable. You
yeah.
don't need
Well,
someone with a gun outside their door. They internalize the jailer and they keep themselves hidden and keep themselves a good
look,
boy, don't fight with anyone.
if you go back to COVID, everyone was going around shaming people that didn't have the vaccine.
Yeah.
You're being this, you're being selfish. Well done. This is a vaccine that doesn't work. It doesn't prevent spread. So why am I doing this again? Or is it pharmaceutical companies there as well? So I refused to take it. But people were like falling out with each other. Celebrities were saying this. I mean, Sharon, if you want to take it, take it. You go for it. I'm not going to judge you on it. But a lot of people didn't want to take it, and they're made to feel that they're the ones that are being shamed because you're not being what the masses are doing and what the media is telling you and the government's telling you. So you're the one that's going to kill that old lady. Well, in fact, it's not true. But the shame was, yeah, they've not done this. Yeah, look at me, I'm vaccinated. You're not. Oh, yeah, so you've got the shame. So there's the projection there of this of the shame just off the top
Yeah,
of my head.
exactly. Absolutely. It's everywhere. And then you see like groups that have been collectively scapegoated. Women have been collectively scapegoated in our culture. You
Yeah,
know, for men's shame around their sexuality, it's women's fault. And then
yeah,
women, we shame each other in order to, because we're carrying all that shame. You know, we have the period pain and stuff. You know, Eckhart Tolle talked about that, how
yeah,
that was the collective pain body. And I really agree with that. That's our collective shame, you know, that's been handed down through generations. And then women, what do? We experience shame and we project it at someone else. Oh, look at her. She's so wrinkly. We pull each other
yeah,
down. We're
yeah,
like crabs in the bucket, you know, and this is the way we've all been conditioned to be with each other, and this is why we can't rise. We're not going to be able to rise like that, and that's all by design, because
yeah,
shame makes sure that we all stay down.
yeah, yeah. And if you go back decades, you could have like a single mum and there's shame. A teenage pregnancy, there's shame. A
Mhm.
divorce, there's shame. What's the neighbours going to think? So yeah, it is a lot of it is by design. And again, do you know what? It's not until you sit down and have a conversation with yourself, someone like yourself, that you just realise how much by design shame is.
And
It-
yeah, like I said, it's this all comes from the church. This form of individualized shame, as I call it. There is kind of this collectivized shame that would have been before, like in tribal communities, you know, to keep everyone honor, you know, it's this idea of honor within the family. But there again, it's kind of your actions that make you shameful. It's not
Mm.
who you are as an individual. This idea of individualized shame, it's a concept that comes from the Catholic Church particularly. And that's now spread. That's now what we collectively call shame. But there are cultures that aren't, you know, hierarchical, that didn't have shame at all. You know, so there's this idea that we as humans need to. It's natural for us to experience shame, but it's absolutely not true. That idea is Eurocentric. 100%. They're not looking at other cultures and seeing how, you know, non-narcissistic type cultures, structured cultures lived. They did not have, especially this individualized shame, it did not exist. Before the Catholic Church came to Ireland, you know, we only had this kind of collectivist shame. You know, if you step outside what the tribe considers normal, then you're shamed for that. But you were not shamed for being you because of who
Yeah,
you are. It's just a different. They're both very toxic, and they're both the only reason people will commit suicide in places like Japan. They have this
yeah,
collectivist type of shame. And this is why people commit suicide. People commit suicide because of shame. It's the only
yeah.
reason people commit suicide.
Well,
That inner narcissist, it
you,
feeds off shame. It kills, you know, and we need to be taking it more seriously and not, you know, being so nicey with shame. You don't sit down with a parasite and send love. Imagine if there's a parasite inside your digestive tract. You don't sit down, take it to therapy and send it love. You know, you just don't do that.
you get rid of
You
her.
take your medicine, you get that thing out. But what do we do with the inner narcissist parasite? We take it to therapy. We try to understand it, try to love it back. No, you get rid of that. Is not a wounded child. The wounded child is another part of you. That thing, it needs to be exercised. Get
Yeah,
it out. It is not you.
yeah, definitely. I mean, you get like in some countries in the Middle East, the daughter gets murdered because she's brought shame on the family. So it can cost
Yes,
somebody's life in the extreme.
absolutely. This is the collectivist type of shame. So you see, again, this is not the I'm bad because of who I am that we talk about in the West. That's very Western, that idea. So even in the Middle East, it's more this, and like I said, this honor collectivist type, also lethal, you know, honor killings, all of that. It's also lethal. They're both very, very virulent and very toxic. But I do feel that this idea that I'm bad for who I am, it's there's
Yeah,
something very, very corrosive about it, and it's all about control. All shame is about control. Look
yeah,
at it. We just I invite people listening, spend the rest of the day or tomorrow, you know, just walk on about your day, looking at how often you see people shaming each other, how often you shame someone or you shame yourself. look at that. It's always about control. You might fool yourself and try to tell yourself that you care for that person or that you're caring for yourself by shaming you. No, it's always about control and the comfort of the person doing the shaming.
It is because you could grow up being a good parent and shame your kids without even realizing by saying something like, if you do this, that's the consequences, and oh my god, you're going to feel all this shame if you do, and it could be without even realizing you're controlling your kids in a bad way, in a negative way. It said, oh my god, if I do this, I'm a bad person. If I do this, oh no, there's a consequence to pay. So
Well, I
yeah,
think it's
I,
different than telling people there are consequences to things rather than shaming. It's not necessarily shaming to tell people that if you do this, you'll get that. If you do that, you'll get this. It's not necessarily shaming. It depends how it's done.
yeah, of course. But what I mean is there's ways. I think back to like my childhood where I was made to feel that if I did certain things, then I'm going to be made to feel loads of shame,
Yeah,
loads of
like if
shame.
your child caught masturbating or something like that,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, something like terrible like that. You know, as a teenager, things that you're supposed to be doing. So yeah, so there's and so what do you do if you're a kid that you don't know any better? Then you just sit there, you don't do anything. Oh, and what's happened? You've been controlled, which the narcissistic parent is the whole point of it all.
But you don't need to be narcissistic to shame people. We all do it because we live
And
in a narcissistic world and we can
yeah,
stop doing it. We have to stop doing it to ourselves first because if you're shaming yourself, you're going to be shaming other people. So
I think it's
you've got to work on that first.
I think is about for me the biggest thing. Listening to everything you said today is about recognizing it because I generally think so many people go around and don't recognize it, but once you point it out, it really stands out. And I'll have a think later on because I bet there are so many circumstances where there's shame that you're just so used to in everyday life you've not even paid attention to, and now it's going to be a lot more visible. And you're like, ah, hold on a minute, can I do something different to this? Can I make a different
Yeah.
choice?
And you don't have to take the shame. If somebody tries to shame you, you can return that gift to sender. That is theirs. Even if you've done something bad, that doesn't mean you're bad. That means,
No,
oh, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I'm really sorry. I wasn't thinking, whatever it was. You don't need to feel shame about that. That doesn't help. Shame does not help remedy the situation. Neither does guilt, by the way.
mm,
But you can recognize that you've made a mistake without shaming yourself. And
yeah.
even in an enlightened society, you can do without feeling guilty.
How have you found the people that you've helped? What have they sort of said to you? Because I'd imagine there's a lot of realization when they start working with you.
Yeah, people feel like, especially people who've been scapegoated, they're carrying
Yeah.
like a huge, like an abnormally large amount of shame. Everyone has shame because we're brought up in this culture that's shaming. But people who've been scapegoated as children, they're debilitated by shame. And that's by design. So, because the scapegoat, your life isn't supposed to work. So yeah, they start feeling lighter. They start, getting ideas about things to do. They start feeling more empowered, and ready to take different actions. And they stop shaming themselves, or start recognizing when when someone has been returning it to sender, when someone's trying to shame them, or, catching themselves when they start shaming themselves, and not letting that thing, because it's like a parasite. Maybe you've been feeding it for 30, 40, 50 years. So it takes a bit of time to really recondition yourself to
Yeah.
to say no
Yeah.
to shame because
Because
we've all been taught that we need shame in order to be a good girl and a good boy.
yeah.
And it's complete bullshit, to be
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, it's just a belief system, and I say this to clients all the time with belief systems. You can change it just because you think or feel something doesn't mean it's true. It's a belief system. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I want them to change that there as well, and change if you can um, get a client to change their belief system from having to feel shame. It's going to make a big difference to their life. And I think, like what you're saying, once they realise, hold on, where did this even come from? This isn't even a part of me. I don't even need this. They're not going to go back to that shame. They're not. They're gonna like, yeah. I'm not going back to that. I'm going to work on myself and get away from this
Yeah,
because
you
you're
can you can
describing it
reject
perfect.
shame. You have to
Yeah,
start shaming, you have to stop shaming yourself first, and that's the key. Because
yeah,
there shame is out there, it's in the air that we breathe, but we can say no to it and not take it in. Like that girl with the ice cream, we don't have to take other people's projections. They
yeah,
can eat it themselves if they must. But like the Buddha, send the gift back to sender. Someone comes to your house, they bring a gift, you don't want it, you send them off with it. You don't have to take it. And shame
yeah,
is just like that. Shame is just like
definitely
that. It's like the gift that someone is trying to give you to show you the wrongs of your ways. But you don't need shame in order to remedy your direction. You can
no.
change direction much better without shame.
Yeah, definitely. You've got you're feeling better to start with, so you're in a better position to make positive changes to your life instead of sitting there feeling bad about yourself. I love
Yeah,
what you're doing.
100%.
I think I love what you're doing. I love what you discovered. I think it's so helpful, so beneficial. It changes people's lives, and it can change people's lives really, really quickly. Literally having a conversation with you, massive start to somebody changing their life for the better there as well. What's your plans for the future of everything that you're doing? Because it feels like you've just got started with all of this.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I have a book about, the narcissistic world and this inner narcissist and the whole concept of shame. I feel like, particularly in the Western world, the whole idea around shame needs to change because at the moment it's pushing this idea that shame is good for you and that we need a little bit in order to be good. And I think that viewpoint needs to be changed from from every we need to realize how toxic shame is. And I've been putting that out there and people are recognizing it on individual scales when I work with them. But the conventional wisdom out there is still that shame is good for you and that you need to learn how to operate with shame and deal with it and cope with it rather than kick it out and reject it. We're taught by conventional wisdom that we can't do that, that it's a normal emotion. And I don't believe that's true. If
No.
you if you even look at the story of Adam and Eve, you can look at it as an allegory for shame. Shame is the start of how we fell, as a species. And
Yeah.
it's what keeps us at a low vibration. Like if you're trying to create a different
Yeah.
life for yourself, you're trying to manifest something different. If you've got a load of shame, it's like just one step above death. You're going to struggle to generate that change or create that difference or rise up in the world if you've got shame keeping you down. So it's so critical. And I believe that shame is the number one reason why people are stuck and stuck in their lives. It's shame. it's
Yeah.
it's always shame that keeps people stuck because it's design it's the shame loop. We're told that you need it, that's good for you. And my vision is to really change that. So I want to change the whole cultural language around shame, the way we speak about it, even linguistically, like this idea of shameless and shameful. I think it's
Yeah.
complete. It's linguistically encoding the need for shame. And I don't think we need that anymore. Shame is the reason why people are narcissists. It's the reason why people, in a lot of cases, do very bad things. They're behaving out of repressed shame. So
Yeah.
shame it's really the enemy. We need to reject it.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. All of Emma's links will be in the description for the episode there. Emma, it's been fascinating. It's been brilliant. So interesting talking with you there. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
My pleasure. I do have a free gift for people if people are interested. If you think you might have this
Definitely.
inner narcissist, if you're resonating with it, I have a free gift. It's called Five Signs That It's Time to Break Up with This Inner Narcissist. So you can check that out. It's at tinyurl.com/not today narc. And it also has strategies and tools about how to start that breakup as well. So definitely check that out if you resonate with what I'm saying. And also connect with me on socials. I'm trauma.matrix or trauma matrix on Substack if you want to look me up there and my work. But yeah, this work, even this realization, I've done a lot of podcasts and people say, just this new way of thinking about things is opening their eyes. So just this awareness can be really powerful in and of itself. But it doesn't stop here.
No, definitely not. And all of your links will be included, like I said there as well. But absolutely brilliant what you're doing, making such a difference there. Thank you so much again for that, Emma. Brilliant. Thank you.